Solo supporting is often seen as a sort of last-ditch effort, a compromise you make when your team is too stubborn to swap to a second healer, and a bunch of people seem to not be aware of the fact that comps featuring only a single healer can be created with very specific intent. Meaning it's not a compromise to teammate, it's something they agreed to doing, and that willingly, for the sake of a perceived benefit. And those benefits are what I want to talk about. Hey, what's up guys, Overwatch tips that nobody asked for here, and today we'll go through a variety of comps that only feature a single healer. We're going to talk about how you can make them work and also explain why they work. Apology in advance, as much as I would have liked to show you guys some example footage, unfortunately I haven't been running into teams recently that were willing to run solo support right out of the gate, and I wasn't about to ask them to play a more risky comp when they were already locked into heroes that they're confident on. With that said, it is worth noting that solo supporting should always be a decision made by the entire team. Running just one healer because nobody else felt like swapping often doesn't go very well. And for the purpose of this video, let's just agree that Symmetra counts more as a defense than a support hero. Now without further ado, let's get right into it. I guess Symmetra actually isn't that bad of a hero to start with, so let's kick things off with a comp that you guys are very likely to have already been running yourself. A defense setup featuring a single support due to the presence of Symmetra. Now there are different setups that you can make work, and it often comes down to who you play with and against. Some comps are gonna be more effective against lower ranked players because they don't know how to deal with them. An example of that would be a defensive comp featuring Junkrat. When setting up a solo support defense, there is one basic rule that you should be paying attention to, and that is making sure that your team features as many heroes with self-sustain as possible. Example being Reinhardt, Roadhog, Soldier, Mei, Symmetra, and Ana. As you will quickly realize, all these heroes have some sort of regenerative ability. Roadhogs take a breather, Soldier's biotic field, Mei's cryo freeze, and Symmetra's regenerating shields. The only hero that really requires Ana's attention at this point is Reinhardt, the only hero that can't regenerate his own HP but at least has a shield to block incoming damage. The entire point of this comp is to take as much work off of your Ana as possible since you're lacking another healer. This kind of defense is very popular on choke heavy maps like Iconworld or Hanamura. With Soldier you have a means of combating Pharah. Mei can also wall enemies off of their team while giving Reinhardt a chance to recharge his shield. And Roadhog is looking to get hooks in between engagements to make sure every teamfight goes in your team's favor and there isn't too much damage to soak. Absolutely everything about this comp is trying to make sure that you don't end up in a full-fledged teamfight, because that's why you will be in trouble with the lack of a second healer. Should someone still go down, you still have Symmetra's teleporter as a backup. But this is a rather basic comp as soon as you get behind the idea of pairing solo support with self-sustaining heroes. Another such comp that pretty much goes the opposite way will often be seen, again primarily on choke heavy maps, but on attack. Now what do I mean by the opposite of our previous comp? Shouldn't you always be pairing solo heals with self-sustain? On attack, that is a bit of a different story, because you don't want to be in a position where you take a lengthy engagement that makes it more likely for the defenders to get their ultimates. This type of comp is more about overwhelming the enemy straight out of the gate, and it is not advised to hammer your head too long into trying it if it obviously doesn't work. At any rate, this comp takes advantage of the fact that your team has the spawn advantage. You're not looking for an engagement where the defenders can do what they're good at, namely looking for single picks to break up the force of your attack. This comp is all about overwhelming damage, efficient trades, and focusing targets. Here's an example running Pharah, Ana, Winston, Genji, Zarya, and Tracer. So essentially dive. Point being to go straight for the enemy supports and then trade kills favorably from there. You are not necessarily looking to keep your team alive, you just want to make sure that the damage everyone causes before dying is significant enough for you to win the engagement. So let's say that Genji, Winston, and Tracer take out both enemy supports but ended up on low health. While Ana is trying to keep them alive, her priority is making sure that the enemies get hit by her biotic grenade, ensuring that they can't use any sort of self-sustain. So you want to play as aggressively as possible. At this point, you just want to make sure that you trade efficiently, so try to get a kill for every member of your team that dies from there on out and build up your presence on the point. Again, your team has the spawn advantage on the first point as attackers. While it is advised to go for a second support from there if the attack took more than one attempt or just barely managed to cap, it is often smarter to use your ultimates to stagger the enemies. The longer it takes the enemies to efficiently regroup, the better. That means that your flankers should be pushing up on their own and try to pick up any last survivors. Again, you got the spawn advantage here. But I know that dive is not the easiest kind of comp to pull off, so for lower elo there are also other things you can do. You can go Reinhardt, Junkrat, and Ana and then pick up a Pharah and a couple of flankers. You just have to protect Junkrat and Ana behind the shield to try to overwhelm the enemies with tons of damage. advantage. Another comp featuring Symmetra could also work, and as bizarre as that might sound at first, the point of adding Symmetra is not necessarily to add more raw damage output, but to emphasize on your spawn advantage. This comp admittingly takes a bit longer to get going in a lot of circumstances, however, due to Symmetra's right click straight up going through shields, it is a great tool to create space for your team by forcing the enemies to move out of the way, unless they want to fuel your ultimate, that is. If your comp features a lot of splash damage and maybe a Genji, then you'll have enemies not knowing where they should be going between Junkrat spamming nades, trying to avoid Symmetra's right click, and Genji poking them from behind. At this point, you want to make sure that you take the fight to the point and have Symmetra put the teleporter reasonably close to it, having your spawn advantage become even more apparent. So there are two basic principles at display here: a comp that makes up for the lack of a second support by featuring heroes that heal themselves, and a comp that doesn't bake on staying alive to begin with and tries to overwhelm the enemies with raw damage output and their spawn advantage. And for most basic setups, that is really all you have to know. From there on out, it depends on how you play it and how good your team is. So make sure you get your picks before a teamfight breaks out on defense, and make sure you kill the right targets first on offense. Again, I have to emphasize the point that these comps are a team effort, as should every comp be, to be honest, but these even more so. Everyone has to be aware of the fact that they are running only a single support and play accordingly. I've seen tanks running hammers blazing and then whining about the lack of heals too often, or flankers grinding tanks rather than diving supports. Point being, these comps are very viable when played properly, but in a solo queue environment it is also a very risky call to make, hence me not willing to ask my team to play these for the sake of display for my video. With that said, I haven't had a lot of problems running these types of comps with most teams above Diamond, but that was usually on their own accord and not with somebody suggesting it, implying that people picked heroes that they felt confident on anyway. Below that, I couldn't really tell you how viable these are. At any rate, I hope that this video helped you guys out getting some new ideas for comps that you can run in competitive, rather than calling it a loss only because you're not running a standard 2-2-2. But this is me done for the day, so thank everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to drop me a like on your way out if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I hope to see you all next time.
My shield generator has been destroyed.